Well, hello, my friends. Today I want to talk about flowers, okay? Now, a lot of times when people are going to grow a garden, they want to grow food. They want to grow carrots. They want to have tomatoes. They want to have sweet corn. A lot of the times when we talk about how are you going to build a backyard garden, it's all about the food. It's all about the vegetables right away. And that's great. And what I want to talk about today is growing flowers in your garden, lots of them, in addition to all of the vegetables and all the herbs and all the other good things you're going to grow. Now, there's a number of what I would call utility reasons for having flowers in your garden. Okay, one of them is that it helps the pollinators. Okay, every time you have flowers around, different pollinators, different insect groups are going to find nectar. They're going to find habitat. They're going to find each other. Growing flowers is one of the best ways to provide habitats for all the pollinator species, including bees and all the different kinds of native bees that are out there. At this point, native habitat for a lot of pollinators is trashed. Okay, the best pollinator habitat that exists is now in the backyard gardens. It's all of us. We're the ones who are keeping all the pollinators somewhat healthy in the world today. And that's why it's really important to do whatever we can to help them out in our gardens and outside of it, mainly by not using chemicals, creating habitat for them. But there's a reason for having flowers in your garden that transcends any kind of utility. The reason to have flowers in your garden is for your own emotional stability, okay? And it all comes from the fragrance. So I'd like you to go back and think about all the gardens that you might have been in as a child. Your grandmother's garden, say, would be a great place to go. Maybe there's an aunt or an uncle, some older relative or a neighbor. And what I always ask people to do is to go back in their memories and try to remember what was the first flower fragrance that they ever smelled, that they ever remember having smelled in their whole life. And if you're lucky, you can remember a number of these things. You can remember the carnations in your grandma's garden. You can remember all the sweet peas or the lilac tree that was in your aunt's front yard. All these memories can come back to you. And the best way for memories to come back to you is through fragrance. I know you've all had that experience of walking into a room and smelling some baked bread or any kind of smell that's going to trigger a memory that you have. That memory is going to be strongest inside you with that smell. So that's why I want to encourage you to grow as many different flowers that smell good as you possibly can, okay? And that's not really very many flowers anymore, okay? There are catalogs full of flowers that you can grow that don't smell like anything at all. Many, probably most flowers these days are bred to be completely scentless, okay? I know that's true in roses. If you try to buy roses, most hybrid tea roses today have no fragrance at all. So I would recommend highly that you go and buy old-fashioned roses. There's a whole group called old-fashioned roses of all different kinds. Maybe I'll do a whole video on roses and talk about all the different kinds of roses. But I would encourage you to seek out particularly those roses that are known for their fragrance. And if you're looking through a catalog of roses, they're going to tell you because they're really popular still. The Peace Rose, Mr. Lincoln is this big, gorgeous, red velvety thing that smells incredible. Tropicana is this bright orange rose that's amazing. Queen Elizabeth is this pink, this huge pink thing that's just... Anyway, I can just sit here for an hour and tell you how gorgeous roses smell. Isn't that interesting? So anyway, but roses are their own little animal. You know, roses are royalty, and roses require a commitment to maintain their lineage and keep them in their regal stature. It's kind of hard to explain, but roses kind of have an attitude. So I give it to them. They're worth it. Okay, so when it comes to roses, they're in a category by themselves. Okay, there are some trees like lilacs and apple blossoms. Apple blossoms on apple trees are heavenly. But you need a situation where you can grow apple trees, where you can grow cherry trees to have the cherry blossoms. It's an incredible experience. But it's not for everybody. If you just have a backyard, you can't grow trees. If you're a renter, you can't take the tree with you. So maybe you're not going to lean towards trees. So what are the things that you can grow that are full of fragrance that you know are just going to knock you over every time you walk by them? And I personally try to grow something like that, many things like that every season, because I want to have that experience of walking through my garden and going, wow, there it is. You walk into a wall of fragrance that's coming from, oh, the honeysuckle, that was it. Whatever it is, to me, it's one of the most profound experiences to have in the garden. And it is actually nourishing you in the exact same way that if you took a bite out of that tomato, it's going to nourish you. Smelling beautiful smells nourishes us. And we've kind of lost that understanding of that kind of nourishment. I don't think they've lost it in Europe, say, places where flowers are a huge part of the culture, where people grow so many flowers in their backyard that, oh, we're going to our friends for dinner. We'll bring them some flowers. Oh, we're going up here for the weekend. Oh, we got to pick some flowers for them. People bring flowers to people for all kinds of reasons, right? If you're going over to somebody's house for dinner, you bring them flowers. Nobody here even thinks of doing that. Nobody here in this country now, in our culture, we don't think of going by the florist to grab a bouquet of flowers. It's kind of expensive. We save flowers for special occasions, when people get married or when they die. It's a sad state of affairs. And it's one that I want to remedy in every way I can. In this way right now is getting people to grow as many flowers as they possibly can. Okay? Carnations. Carnations are, to me, they're just so sublime and wonderful. But many, many carnations don't smell like anything anymore. It's tragic, okay? If you're going to look for a carnation that smells good, you've got to look in the seed catalog to make sure that it's a variety that is still bred for its fragrance. Because you cannot assume that there's going to be fragrance in anything. In fact, if you get used to looking through seed catalogs a lot, you're going to notice the things that are super fragrant because they're going to tell you. Because most everything is not fragrant. And so the things that are, they're going to make a point of it. So I always grow the most fragrant carnations that I can find. In the carnation family, Sweet Williams is a wonderful, beautiful flower, very tough. It's a biennial, Sweet William. It's not like carnation. Carnation, you grow the seed, you get the plant, you get the flowers one year. Maybe that plant survives like as a perennial for the next year. And there are perennial carnations. The cut flowers, they don't really work that well. But now Sweet Williams is a biennial. Sweet William, you grow the plant out, you sow the seeds, grow the plant out, and it doesn't flower the first year. That next spring, that Sweet William is the first flowering plant in your garden. It's absolutely worth having it. So every year I grow some Sweet Williams and I plant them out. And then the Sweet Williams that I get to smell are the ones I planted last year. Okay. And all the Sweet Williams that I plant this year are all the ones that I'm going to smell next year. All right. In the family of carnations, I have to tell you, there is the most incredible smell that comes from a carnation plant called the pink. Pink. P-I-N-K, it's like the color. And they're also called clove pinks because they smell so spicy and clovey. So if you can ever find an old-fashioned clove pink, that hands down is the most incredible carnation smell you're ever going to find. That's so great. So also in the garden, there's a whole class of plants that flower at night, night blooming flowers. Most of them are white, and that's largely to attract the nighttime pollinators. And all the fragrances of the nighttime white flowers are also to attract all the moths, and is a whole universe of nighttime pollinators that are only around at night. So I really encourage you to grow flowers and plants that are habitat for the nighttime pollinators. My favorite plant of all that is called Nicotiana. It looks like nicotine, and it's actually a tobacco plant. The tobacco family, it's not the tobacco plant that grows the big wide leaves that get cured into smoking tobacco. It's not that kind of tobacco. It's a flowering tobacco that is just a small little nondescript plant. The flowers are kind of droopy during the day, but as soon as evening comes along, the Nicotiana plant brightens up and sends out the most amazing fragrance. So I'm going to say that you should grow Nicotiana everywhere. You should grow it outside your windows of your bedroom, because then you can open up your bedroom windows at night and Nicotiana is going to come wafting in. I would just grow it everywhere, not only for the pollinators, but for me, because I love it so much. There's a lot of other flowers that you can grow in the garden that create fragrance. And this year, I'm going to grow a flower that I have not grown for a couple of years, but it is without a doubt one of my favorite flowers of all. I have a place in my orchard. I call it the orchard hut. And it's just a little square roof, basically. I have a little chimney in there so I can have a little fire. And it's just a little nice place to sit in the middle of the orchard. It's kind of sheltered. I just like to go there and meditate and hang out, think about what I'm going to grow this year, things like that. But this year, I'm going to do something different to that place. I have this vision, I have this idea that I want to be surrounded with sweet peas. That's this plant, the flower called sweet pea. It's just a little pea. It doesn't grow into the kind of edible pea. It just grows a flower. And it's the most incredibly fragrant flower that you can ever grow. So that's what I'm going to do this year. We'll catch some video of it. When I'm pruning in the orchard, I'm going to clean up the bed all around the outside of the orchard hut. And I'm going to sow this old-fashioned sweet pea that I've been saving for a long time. My friend Andy grew it for many, many years, and it's just incredible. I'm going to sow Andy's sweet pea all around my orchard hut, so that those sweet peas, sow them now in March, as soon as the snow leaves. March, put those seeds straight in the ground, big old honking sweet pea seeds. And those plants are going to grow all up the sides of this hut, so that I can go sit inside in the middle of this and be completely surrounded with sweet peas. That's my vision for the summer. That's one of my huge garden goals. You know, I'm going to grow tomatoes. I always grow tomatoes. Yeah, so what? To somebody, oh yeah, I'm going to grow all these tomatoes. They're very excited about that. And that's great for you. Yeah. Okay. Everybody's got to have something different that they're going to be excited about this year. Excited enough to have a vision long enough ahead of time so that I can say, I want to be surrounded by sweet peas this summer. And so here it is, March. Now is when I have to do this. Now is when I got to get Nicotiana seeds. Now is when I should maybe plant that fragrant rose bush, that angel face, heavenly thing. I have a spot for it. I should think about that. So that's what I'm talking about. I want you to think about where and what you can do to include fragrance from flowers in your garden.